right, finally we have new videos from the Soul presentation. So let's talk about it. Get in here, this is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. Okay, as you see, Soul Foundation videos from the presentation at the conference have dropped. And we've got a whole bunch of them. Some of them are quite long. There's almost an hour long with Avi Lowe. We've got an hour long with Paul Thigpen, etc. So let's just go over a few clips from a few of those. All right, let's go to Hal Poff has some interesting comments. And this is over 4 minute long clip. Joe Murgia was really kind enough to post several clips and also to give a breakdown of some of the contents of those clips. Now I've watched them, but it will, this one clip from Hal Poff, will take over 4 minutes to actually show you. It'd be much quicker for me just to read the breakdown from Joe. So I really appreciate Joe doing that. But this is what Hal Poff had to say about why he and others actually came out against disclosure, or that's where their mindset was. Really interesting, a little frustrating, very frustrating, but this is what he said. In 2005, Hal attended a 2005 conference in D.C. on disclosure. I believe this was put on by John L. Peterson in the Arlington Institute. Poff says, there were about 15 to 20 people. I recognized some of them from the military, the CIA, DIA, some businessmen, and so on. They were all told this conference is about disclosing something to the American public. As a startup position, let's assume that there have been crash retrievals by Russia, China, and the United States. And the question is, can we bring this out to the public? Poff started off supporting disclosure, and then they broke up into groups and the discussions began. They made a list of issues that would be affected by disclosure: the stock market, religions, politics, etc. By the time they got down to the bottom of the list, they were talking about, quote, if Corporation A has access to retrieve materials that Corporation B doesn't, then when this comes out, Corporation B is going to sue Corporation A, and they're going to sue the government. This is really going to be a tough thing to handle. And that is something that Ross Coulthart has been talking about recently, publicly, is this, if the government gave Lockheed Martin some UFO material, but they didn't give another company, and all this stuff comes out, and Lockheed has been given an unfair advantage, that's going to be a legal headache. People are going to be suing Lockheed. They're going to be suing the government. It's going to be a big mess. But apparently that and some other issues really persuaded some of these individuals at this 2005 conference, and they were making this list. And at the end of the day, I'll just read the quote. It finally came down to the fact that the problem was there's so many areas to handle, and there was no way to handle them all at the same time. Therefore, we're going to recommend that we don't go forward with this. And I'll let Hal explain it in his own words.
Handle, and there was no way to handle them all at the same time. And so the final result was, therefore, the leader said, we're going to recommend that we don't go forward with this. And so those of us who were participating in this were pretty disappointed, thinking, we started thinking that, this would be a good thing to do. So anyway.
So they were disappointed, but at the end of the day, after making this list, their responses were negative. They were against disclosure. And that is very frustrating, but that was the mood of the day, and that was adding a somber note to the Soul Foundation. Coming out of that, multiple people were seemingly against disclosure, or being very wary of disclosure and very, kind of somber about that. And now we're getting some insight as to why that would be. This is what Christopher Melan had to say. And again, I'm really grateful to Joe Murgia for providing this breakdown. It's much easier to go through this, me just relating it very quickly. But Chris says, we're not dealing, at least not exclusively, with an intangible interdimensional presence that has for centuries been seeking to suddenly influence human affairs. Something along these lines could be happening. It's a fascinating issue, but our military is encountering intelligently controlled solid objects invading restricted military aerospace, sometimes flying in formation. In many cases, they're emitting radiation in the 1 to 3 and 8 to 12 gigahertz range. Multiple credible reports indicate these objects have rendered segments of our nuclear deterrent inoperable. In other recent cases, they're jamming radars on our fighter aircraft. We also have multiple cases of near mid-air collisions and other cases involving serious injuries to military and civilian personnel. Indeed, this is an area of research for Dr. Nolan and the Soul Foundation. I'm here to support Gary's and Peter's efforts to advance the scientific study of UAP, but I also recognize that as much as it might like to, we can't let the government divest itself of this issue. Similarly, the government does not have the luxury of limiting itself to pristine scientific information. This is one of the areas in which I differ from Dr. Kirkpatrick, who claims there is, quote, no credible, unquote, evidence of UAP demonstrating capabilities or doing things that violate our understanding of science. To my mind, the Nimitz aviators and radar operators and technicians are eminently credible. And it goes on, but yeah, there you go. He has a more nuts and bolts understanding, or at least that is, the idea that he's trying to get across. Don't look at all the, esoteric parts of the phenomenon. Look at the more nuts and bolts parts of the phenomenon, these near collisions. And, he says near collisions, but, Preston Dennett, great UFO researcher Preston Dennett, did a whole hour-long video talking about all the different times UFOs have actually collided with human vehicles, from planes, trains, to automobiles. As unlikely as it sounds, yes, there have been UFOs that have hit trains before. But whatever. I appreciate where Chris is coming from, and to a certain extent, yeah, he's right that it's probably going to be more acceptable to the mainstream to be focusing on the nuts and bolts, and also to get the mainstream government engaged in this. Instead of talking about the other dimensional stuff, talk about near collisions and very practical matters that the government can address. And I get that. He says, I'm raising these issues to remind that the paramount question about UAP for government policymakers and many members of the public will undoubtedly be whether UAP pose an existential threat. So, of course, that is the question. Is it a threat? Is it not a threat? Well, it isn't even an it, because it implies a monolithic view of the phenomenon. There seem to be, benign and positive and also negative aspects of the phenomenon, and some of those are alarming and it could be threatening, but some of them are not. Should we be protecting ourselves against the negative stuff and maybe working with the positive stuff to better ourselves and our chances against the negative stuff? Probably. Should all this be done publicly and with public engagement and knowledge and awareness of what's going on? Absolutely. I don't care if Lockheed Martin and the government get sued into oblivion. That is what is most important. We are involved in some sort of cosmic conflict that we may not want to be involved in. But moving on, we've talked before about the JFK files model of UFO disclosure, this 25-year plan, etc. Well, here is what Carl Nell had to say about the differences between one plan and the other.
And then this board is to adjudicate whether the stuff actually is TOO and NHI and whether it should be postponed or disclosed. And we'll get into some of the ramifications of that in a minute. So how's this board going to do this? They're going to develop a plan. And this is a big difference from the JFK legislation. So this plan for all records that they deem need to be postponed for whatever reason has got to indicate a benchmark-driven process with specified occurrences and timeframes for downgrading, review, and declassification for everything that's postponed. And then this plan supersedes all previous declassification guidance that may have been applicable to this material. That's extremely important. That's different than the JFK. The JFK was basically like, should we postpone or not? Okay, and then it gets kicked down the road if they say postpone. Schumer basically says, if you're postponing, you got to tell me exactly what you got to do to release it in a benchmark-driven plan. And then this plan basically becomes the declassification guidance going forward. Now,
okay, yeah, his full speech is much longer. All these speeches are much longer, and I encourage you to watch them all individually. Obviously, that's definitely a commitment of time, and, you know, I'm going to digest them myself over, you know, maybe the week, you know, watching a few of them, the full presentations a day. But there's some really fascinating information, and really fascinating to see the mindset of the people who may be shaping UFO disclosure. Here's what Tim Gallagher had to say.
Well, let's talk about those areas that we need action. The Hill's doing it right. We got some good work with the House. I just was approached by Representative Luna. She is interested in having another field hearing, this time on USOs, undersea UAP. So we'll see where we go with that. And that's good. So there's action being taken. And Carl, I'm looking forward to your presentation about the Schumer amendment. But what about the executive branch? This is where things aren't going well. You have this big disconnect between what the House, the story David told, and of course the Aero office under Dr. Kirkpatrick. Why is that? And it's not complicated. Sean can't do and say things without clearance from the SecDef, and above him, the National Security Council and the White House. And likely DNI. And everybody who's worked with the government in this room, there's many, they know how this works. And that's this White House does not want to disclose. That's their policy, and Sean is merely following that suit. Now, and the same is going on with NASA. If anybody saw the live meeting, yeah, what do you want to call that? There was nothing, there was zero data. There wasn't one example. At least Sean showed that Mosul orb, but yeah, and this was such a non-event, and it's for the same reason. They get their orders from the White House. That's how it works. And so the policy currently today is non-disclosure. And
Okay, I think that's really fascinating, this idea that the cover-up could be coming from the White House. Now, Tim is in a much better position to know than I am. I hate to, argue against Tim Gallaudet, however you say his name. However, I've got to disagree, man. I got to disagree. The cover-up has been going on for a long, long time, potentially 100 or more years. Who knows how long this has been going on. From my own research, it seems to be going on since at least the early 1900s, and if not before. And so, the White House, obviously, the occupants of the White House are transitory, but what we're dealing with right now is a permanent or semi-permanent body of people, an organization, a control group. There's probably different facets and different levels of the control group, maybe many. There's a multinational element to it. So it's much bigger than the White House. So I reject the idea that the cover-up is coming from the White House and that Sean Kirkpatrick, the lovely Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, is under the White House. But again, Tim is in a much better position to judge than I am. And, I have to take what he says into account. So let me know what you think about that. Well, it seems only fitting to give David Grush the last word.
The integration of this kind of technology into our scientific knowledge could propel us to the future with unprecedented innovation, shaping industries, improving our quality of life. It's not just about knowing, it's about the potential to revolutionize our understanding of physics, biology, and chemistry, and other foundational sciences. releasing this information in a controlled, planned manner, such as Carl Nell has discussed during the conference, as with the Schumer Amendment, has profound implications on our philosophical and spiritual perspectives. The acknowledgement of otherworldly intelligences challenges our very concept of existence, encouraging us to reconsider our place in the grand tapestry of the universe. It's an important and profound introspection and a catalyst for a new era of spiritual awakening. In conclusion, this movement ignited in December 2017 with Leslie and Ralph's famous article in the New York Times is not merely a matter of government transparency, it's a paradigm shift that holds the power to reshape our world. By embracing the unknown, we open ourselves to a future where truth, unity, and technological advancements and a deeper understanding of our existence converge. Let us advocate for transparency, not for ourselves, but for the generations to come as we embark on a journey toward a more enlightened and interconnected world. Thank you.
All right, love it, David Grush. Yeah, let's advocate for transparency, guys, and openness and honesty. Too much is writing on the outcome of this. We've got it in the cover-up. For the technological benefits that that screen grab was not a flattering screen grab. But yeah, for the technological benefits that Dave is talking about, I mean, where's our med beds, guys? We're pony up with the med beds, pony up with the free energy already, right? So yeah, for those reasons, and also to get out of a cosmic war, if that is what we are involved in. So for so many reasons, we need disclosure. So let's keep on pushing the ball forward, guys. Let me know what you think about that and everything else in the video today. Please give me a big thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, links below. Love to see you guys there. If you wanted to support Cosmic Road in an even bigger way, please consider grabbing a coffee mug or a t-shirt in the merch store below, or by becoming a channel member. Channel members are rock stars, and I really appreciate you guys' support. Thank you. Also, channel members frequently get to see videos hours ahead of everybody else. Meanwhile, there are plenty of other videos on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.